Dear brother and sister, when everything starts falling apart, your plans, your peace, your patience, it's not a sign that Allah has abandoned you. It's a sign that He's testing your tawakkul, your trust in Him. Because true faith isn't proven when life is easy. It's proven when you have every reason to give up. Yet you still say, Allah is enough for me. Life will never be free of problems, but every difficulty that crosses your path carries a divine purpose. When your heart aches and your mind feels heavy, that's when Allah is asking you a silent question. Do you still trust me? This is the essence of tawakkul, to rely on Allah completely, even when the path ahead is dark and uncertain. Problems aren't punishments. They are invitations to draw nearer to Allah, to surrender your worries, and to believe that His plan is still working for your good, even if you cannot yet see it. Tawakkul means you tie your camel, you do your part, but you never place your trust in the camel. You place it in the one who created the camel, the journey, and the destination. It's about knowing that no loss, no failure, and no delay happens outside of Allah's wisdom. Sometimes Allah closes doors not to harm you, but to protect you from walking into something that could destroy your peace. Sometimes He delays what you want to teach you, what you need: patience, faith, humility, and surrender. Every problem you face is like a mirror reflecting the strength of your trust. Do you crumble under pressure? Or do you stand firm, believing my Lord is with me and He will guide me through? The believer understands that life's tests are not about breaking you. They're about shaping you into the person Allah wants you to become. So when life gets heavy, don't ask her, why me? Ask her, what is Allah teaching me? Because sometimes your most painful chapters are the ones where your tawakkul grows the most. Problems are not punishments. They are tests of faith. When a believer faces hardship, it's easy to assume that it's because Allah is displeased or punishing them. The human heart, when overwhelmed with pain, naturally begins to question a why. Is this happening to me? But in truth, problems are not always punishments. They are often divine tests meant to measure and strengthen your faith. Allah, in His infinite wisdom, tests every believer to bring out the hidden gems of their patience, trust, and sincerity. The Quran reminds us in Surah Al-Baqarah 2:155, and we will surely test you with something of fear and hunger, and a loss of wealth and lives and fruits, but give good tidings to the patient. These words are not meant to discourage you, but to remind you that every pain you endure is known, measured, and purposeful. Allah tests not to break you, but to elevate you. He wants to see how deep your tawakkul, your trust in Him, truly runs when everything else is taken away. Think of how Allah tested the prophets, the most beloved of His creation. Prophet Ayub has lost his health, wealth, and family, yet his faith never wavered. He never said, why me? Instead, he said, indeed, adversity has touched me, and you are the most merciful of the merciful. His story shows us that even the greatest trials can be a sign of Allah's closeness, not His anger. Prophet Yusuf, as was thrown into a well, sold as a slave, and imprisoned for years, yet all those trials were stepping stones to his eventual honor and success. Prophet Muhammad, let's see, himself faced rejection, loss, and immense pain, but Allah was molding him through those difficulties to lead an entire ummah. If problems were punishments, the prophets, the most righteous among mankind, would not have been tested so deeply. In reality, the greater your faith, the greater your tests. The Prophet Kushay said, the most severely tested people are the prophets, then those nearest to them, then those nearest to them. This means the closer you are to Allah, the more He refines you through trials. Your problems are Allah's way of polishing your heart, removing arrogance, and replacing dependence on this world with complete reliance on Him. Every hardship is a training ground for tawakkul. When life feels heavy, it's not because Allah has left you, It's because He wants you to hold on to Him even tighter. Sometimes, when things don't go as planned, we think we're being punished. But the truth is, Allah might be protecting you. He might be saving you from something unseen, guiding you toward a better path, or teaching you patience that will lead to long-term peace. You see, when everything in life goes your way, your tawakkul remains untested. But when doors close, when people leave, and when plans fail, that's when your faith is truly measured. Will you trust Allah's timing even when you don't understand His plan? Will you believe that He is still in control even when life feels chaotic? A believer with true tawakkul understands that every problem carries within it an opportunity for spiritual growth. Hardships teach humility, remind us of our dependence on Allah, and strengthen our spiritual resilience. When you stop viewing problems as punishments and start seeing them as tests, your entire perspective shifts. You stop asking, "Why me?" and start saying, "Ya Allah, help me pass this test." You begin to understand that Allah tests not to harm you, but to draw you nearer, to purify your heart from worldly attachments and prepare you for something far greater than you can imagine. So, the next time life becomes heavy and problems surround you, remember this: Allah has not forgotten you. He is watching how you respond. Your tears, your patience, your silent prayers in the night, all are seen by Him. Every trial you face is a sign that Allah loves you enough to guide you through a process that will bring you closer to Him. Problems don't mean Allah is punishing you, they mean He is refining you, shaping you, and teaching you the art of true tawakkul. Because faith that is never tested remains weak, but faith that survives storms becomes unshakable. True tawakkul is acting with effort and trusting the outcome to Allah. True tawakkul, trust in Allah, is not a passive concept. It is an active state of faith that blends human effort with divine reliance. Many people misunderstand tawakkul as simply awaiting for Allah to fix things. But in Islam, it means much more than that. It means you take every step you can. You plan, you strive, and you give your full effort, but you do not let your heart become attached to the results. You understand that success doesn't come from your effort alone. It comes from Allah's will. This balance between action and trust is the very essence of true tawakkul. The Prophet Muhammad beautifully explained this when a man asked, "Should I tie my camel and trust in Allah, or should I leave it untied and trust in Allah?" The Prophet replied, "Your camel, and then trust in Allah." Tirmidhi. This simple but profound advice shows that Islam calls for both responsibility and reliance. We must do our part, and then leave the outcome to Allah with a heart at peace. When you have tawakkul, you understand that effort is your duty, but results are Allah's domain. You plant the seed, but only Allah can make it grow. You study hard, but only Allah can grant success. You apply for jobs, but only Allah decides which door will open. The world may tell you that outcomes depend on strategy, intelligence, or luck, but the believer knows that outcomes depend on the decree, qadar, of Allah. This doesn't mean you sit back and do nothing. Rather, you do everything within your capacity. But you don't let anxiety consume you if things don't go as planned, because you know that the one who controls your destiny never makes mistakes. When you truly internalize this, your heart feels light. You begin to experience a deep inner peace, because you know that your job is to act, and Allah's job is to decide. That tawakkul teaches you humility. Just as a parent doesn't hand a sharp tool to a child, Allah doesn't grant certain blessings until you are spiritually and emotionally mature enough to receive them. What you see as a delay is often divine protection. Every difficulty too has mercy hidden within it. Think of how storms nourish the earth, how pain humbles the heart, and how loss teaches gratitude. The believer who has tawakkul learns to see beyond the surface of hardship. They understand that behind every challenge lies a purpose. When something painful happens, it could be Allah cleansing your heart from pride, teaching you empathy for others, or redirecting you towards something far better. Allah says in Surah Shah 94:5-6, "For indeed with hardship comes ease, indeed with hardship comes ease." Notice how Allah repeats it as if to remind your heart that every pain you endure already comes with ease attached to it. You just may not see it yet. The delay of your du'as is also a mercy. Sometimes Allah delays answering your prayers because He loves hearing your voice in supplication. Every time you raise your hands and call upon Him, you're strengthening your bond with your Creator. Your du'as are never ignored. They're answered immediately, stored for the right time, or saved for you in the hereafter in ways far greater than you could imagine. The Prophet said, "No Muslim supplicates to Allah with a dua in which there is no sin or severing of ties of kinship. But Allah gives him one of three things. He grants his request immediately, or He stores it for him in the hereafter, or He averts an equivalent harm from him." This hadith reminds us that even unanswered prayers are not wasted. They are redirected with mercy. When your heart embraces this truth, your soul finds peace. You stop chasing after outcomes and start trusting Allah's timing. You realize that if something was truly good for you, Allah would have granted it, and if He hasn't, then there's wisdom in the wait. Tawakkul turns delays into lessons and disappointments into opportunities to deepen your trust. You begin to look at life differently, not as a series of random events, but as a divine journey guided by the most merciful. Every rejection becomes redirection. Every heartbreak becomes purification. Every closed door becomes a form of protection. So when life doesn't go as planned, don't lose hope. Instead, whisper to your heart, there is mercy in this, because there always is. Allah's plan is never delayed. It unfolds exactly when it's meant to. Every moment of waiting, every moment of hardship is part of a story written by the one who knows you better than you know yourself. Trust His timing, for He is never late. Trust His wisdom, for He is never wrong. And trust His mercy, for He never withholds good from those who have tawakkul in Him. Tawakkul brings peace in chaos when life feels like it's falling apart. When confusion clouds your mind, and when nothing seems to go according to plan, tawakkul is what steadies the heart. It is the rope that keeps you connected to Allah when everything around you feels uncertain. True tawakkul doesn't remove the chaos of life, but it gives you calmness within that chaos. It is not the absence of storms, it's the presence of serenity amidst them. When you fully trust Allah's plan, you stop fearing the unknown, because you realize that nothing in this world can harm or benefit you except by His will. Your heart no longer trembles at what you can't control, because you have surrendered control to the one who never makes mistakes. This inner peace that tawakkul brings is one of the greatest gifts. A believer can have a peace that the world cannot give and circumstances cannot take away. Life on earth is unpredictable, filled with ups and downs, joy and sorrow, gain and loss. One moment you're celebrating success, and the next you're dealing with disappointment. That's the nature of this dunya, temporary, unstable and full of tests. But when your heart is anchored in tawakkul, these fluctuations don't break you. You begin to face life's storms with quiet strength, because you know that Allah is the one steering your ship. The Prophet endured hardships greater than anyone, losing loved ones, facing persecution, and enduring immense pain, yet his heart remained tranquil. Why? Because his trust in Allah was unshakable. In the cave of Thawr, when he and Abu Bakr were hiding from their enemies, Abu Bakr became afraid. But the Prophet's dear said to him, "Do not grieve. Indeed, Allah is with us." Those words embody the essence of tawakkul. Even in the face of danger, His peace came from knowing that Allah's presence was greater than any threat around him. When you cultivate tawakkul, your perspective on problems changes. You stop asking, "Oh, why is this happening to me?" and start saying, "Allah is guiding me through this." You stop panicking over what's lost because you trust that Allah will replace it with something better. This trust creates emotional resilience. It strengthens you from the inside out. Anxiety fades when you realize that worrying never changes outcomes, but tawakkul does. Fear decreases when you remember that Allah is the controller of all affairs. The Prophet said, "If you were to rely upon Allah with the reliance He is due, He would provide for you as He provides for the birds. They go out in the morning hungry and return full." Tamidi. Notice how the birds still fly out to search for food. They act, but their hearts are free of fear. That is what true tawakkul looks like: effort without anxiety, movement without panic, action filled with peace. This piece of tawakkul is not only emotional but spiritual. It strengthens your connection with Allah, because every time life tests you, you run back to Him instead of away from Him. You begin to find comfort in prayer, in dua, and in remembrance. You no longer seek peace in people, money, or outcomes. You seek it in the one who controls all hearts and destinies. The Quran beautifully reminds us in Surah Ar-Ra'd 13:28. Verily, in the remembrance of Allah do hearts find rest. The believer who trusts Allah finds peace not because their life is perfect, but because they know their Lord is perfect. Every worry, every heartbreak, every uncertain moment becomes lighter when carried with tawakkul. The beauty of tawakkul is that it makes you unshakable in a shaking world. You learn to breathe even when life suffocates you, because you know Allah's mercy is never far. You find stillness in your soul even when everything else is moving. This is what sets the believer apart from the rest of the world. While others panic in chaos, the believer stands firm, whispering, "My Lord is with me." When you truly understand this, peace no longer depends on circumstances. It becomes a permanent state of your heart, a reflection of your trust in the most merciful. So when chaos surrounds you, remember, tawakkul is your anchor. It doesn't stop the waves, but it keeps you from drowning in them. The storms of life may continue to rage, but the believer who trusts Allah walks through them with calmness, knowing that every wave, every wind, and every turn of fate is under the command of the one who never lets his servants down. When your heart is rooted in tawakkul, no chaos can destroy your peace, because your peace no longer comes from this world, it comes from Allah. Strengthening tawakkul leads to spiritual freedom. When your tawakkul becomes strong, you experience a kind of freedom that this world cannot offer: spiritual freedom. You are no longer chained by fear, anxiety, or the opinions of others. You stop being enslaved by outcomes, because you realize that everything that happens, every success, every delay, every loss is part of Allah's perfect plan. This is the power of tawakkul. It liberates your soul from the prison of constant worry. You stop obsessing over the afarifsi and why-me's of life, because your heart finally rests in the truth that Allah is in control. When you trust Allah completely, you no longer depend on people, money, or circumstances for peace. You depend only on Him. And that dependence on the most merciful becomes your greatest source of independence from everything else. This freedom doesn't mean your life will be without challenges. It means that when challenges come, they no longer break your heart. You learn to see them as tests, not tragedies, as opportunities to grow closer to Allah. You become spiritually stronger, more patient, and more content. You start to live with a sense of calm acceptance, knowing that whatever Allah chooses for you is always better than what you could have chosen for yourself. As the prophets said, amazing is the affair of the believer, for there is good for him in every matter. And this is not the case with anyone except the believer. If he is happy, he thanks Allah and there is good for him. If he is harmed, he shows patience and there is good for him. Muslim. This hadith perfectly describes heart free through tawakkul, one that finds peace in both ease and hardship. When tawakkul fills your heart, you stop chasing temporary happiness and start seeking eternal peace. You understand that what's written for you will find you, and what isn't written for you will never reach you, no matter how hard you try. This realization frees you from the endless pursuit of control and the fear of loss. You live lighter, love deeper, and pray harder. You begin to walk through life with calmness, courage, and confidence, knowing that as long as Allah is with you, nothing can truly harm you. That is spiritual freedom, when your soul is at peace, not because life is easy, but because your trust in Allah is unshakable.